Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Chair and Vice Chair of Borough Council.
Good evening, everybody. Before we sit down again, we've got a minute's silence. I've asked you to remain standing for John McCree, who died on the 26th of December 2017. John was in council for many years, and he was chair of the council in 1999 to 2000. Also for Harry Talbot, who died 7th of January 2018. Harry was a councillor for 17 years and was chair of the council from 1993. Item 1 on the agenda. Are there any apologies of absence, please?
Councillor Infected and Councillor Harrington.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Mike Wright.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item 2, declarations of interest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in items 13D to J, as I received a one-off honorarium for work carried out in 2016 through the mobilisation of HTS in my role as a council-funded member of the HTS board.
Thank you very much.
Chair, same as Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the trio. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, thank you very much.
In accordance with Section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992, I will not be voting on agenda item 13F. That's the General Fund Budget 2018-19.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, item 3. I'd like to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of December. Can I accept those as correct record?
Chair,
Jean?
is omitted to register my attendance, Chair.
Okay.
I didn't see
Okay,
it.
Jean, thank you very much.
I was there.
Who was that? Is there anybody else? Yeah. Okay. Can I accept these as a correct record apart from Jean's amendment?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right. Item 4. Communications from myself. Well, I'd like once again to say good evening, councillors, officers, member of the public. Once again, this gives me a few moments to say a few words. Firstly, I'd like to say there's quite a large agenda this evening, and I'd like to ask that not only are you respectful to me, but also to each other. I should like to thank Maggie for covering for me when I had lung infection and spent time in hospital in December. But since then, and since being well, I have been able to attend some functions this last little while. I went to a meal at Subidra to a Mexican restaurant, which was different, quite nice. I attended opening the art exhibition downstairs and gave out awards. And I also attended the Holocaust Remembrance Service at the synagogue on Sunday. Moving on, there are quite a few engagements in February and March. I will be overrun with civic dinners, including my own, which is on the 23rd of March, and I hope you will come and support my charities. I have one last chance to show our wonderful sculptures and the Gibbard Garden to our surrounding authorities, which is being set up at the moment. We need to let people know just what we have here in Harlow. Last but not least, I'd also like to wish a happy birthday and pass on our best wishes to a very special person. Donald Leggett Anderson, who is the former chair of Harlow Urban District Council, celebrated his 100th birthday yesterday, on Wednesday the 31st of January. He was a member of the first ever council for the town, serving as a council from 1955 and was chair of the Urban District Council from 1957 to 1958. Donald now lives in Birmingham, close to his family, and we wish him all the best. Right, thank you very much. Okay, now, next item is could I call for nominations for the appointment of leader of the council?
Thank you, Chair. I have the pleasure in nominating Councillor Emma Hull.
Okay. I will call for any other nominations. Oh, I need a seconder for that, please.
I'm second.
Okay, Jean, thank you very much. I understand we haven't got any other nominations, so can we have agree that Councillor Toll as the new leader of the council?
Can I just say a few words, Chair? If we're
Sorry, I can't hear.
Question mark.
Okay. Okay, Jean.
Yes, well, I'm pleased to second this, Chair. Young, enthusiastic, a breath of absolute fresh air to the council, always with the interests of Harlow community at heart, and her experience, obviously, as a portfolio holder, meant we've seen this demonstrated over and over again. She has protected the facilities that Harlow residents really value, like Pets Corner, Playhouse and other facilities. Quite resilient, and I think that is going to be extremely important. This has been in the past, when she has had certain charges of ageism and sexism, but she's brushed them aside, and she has concentrated in a highly committed way on the community at large, and I'm very pleased to second this, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we agree that Councillor Toll is the new leader of the council. Thank you very much. Right. Now, I call on the leader to announce their deputy leader and appointments to cabinet, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to appoint Councillor Mark Ingalls, my deputy leader and portfolio holder for youth and community. I'd like to appoint Councillor Mark Wilkinson as the portfolio holder for housing. Councillor Wade Foreman as the portfolio holder for governance, Councillor Tony Durkin as the portfolio holder for regeneration, Councillor Mike Danvers as the portfolio holder for finance, and Councillor Danny Burton as the portfolio holder for environment.
Right. Also, sorry. Right. Okay. Right. Right, we're calling for nominations of vacancies in appointment for committees, and we've got done all the subcommittees as well.
Yes, that's okay, but we just noticed a couple of errors that we had on from before. So in the scrutiny, the vacant labour was obviously filled by Tony Edwards after Councillor Rodrian, and that should be in calling subcommittee. It's still got Rodrian from before. That just needs to be changed to Tony Edwards. And just to note that Mark Ingle now is on the cabinet, can no longer be on the scrutiny committee, so we'll be replacing him with Edna Stevens. Everything else we said in advance, so anything coming on. You should have all the paperwork in front of you.
Are we all agreed on that?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, is this
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, are we covering
Sorry, we're covering sort of item 6 to item 9, or item 8, all in one go. So 7 at the moment.
7 at the moment, Eddie.
Okay, well, in looking at the agenda, I see item 14 is about the chief executive, and I understand that we're now not going to use a selection panel. And we've got an appointments panel on this thing that was just agreed, so do we really need it?
You never know.
You know, as one of the members of it, I feel like, you know, there's a name down there, but we're not going to use it, are we?
You never know, Andy.
We never do this stuff. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, okay. Right. Yeah. Right, the chair will call for nominations for appointment to vacant positions on the list of council representative outside bodies. Have we got those, Emma, please?
Yeah, we nominate as has been circulated.
Okay, fine, thank you very much. Everybody agree with that? Right. Petitions from the public, there are none. Questions from the public, surprisingly enough, there are none. Questions from councillors, there are none. Motions from councillors. Councillor Purton would like to propose your motion or speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This motion was written to address the absence of corporate policy on this issue. I'm now satisfied that we are moving towards a solution in the shortest possible time, and I'm therefore withdrawing this motion from tonight's agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
You do agree with it, Councillor Danvers? Yes, thank you. Right, item 13.
mic off.
References from cabinet and committees. I'd like to for you to agree to take references on item 13, A to C, on block. Are we agree with that?
Agreed.
Thank you. Who's the mover? Okay, Councillor Chair, Saz. Seconder? Okay, Edna, thank you. Are we agreed? Yes?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right, the next item, we're taking, or would like to take item 13, D to J, on block. Is that
So do, Chair.
agreed?
I'd like to move those chairs, just with bearing in mind the amendment to Appendix E on the charges that were circulated in advance, obviously just moving with that amendment.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Charles. Seconder?
Sorry, yes, seconded.
Okay, Councillor Danvers. All agreed?
Oh,
Oh,
that would be quite a temperament.
oh, she's just speaking. Okay, so I thought it was on the...
That'd be a quick meeting, Chair. Okay. Right, okay, thank you. It's my pleasure tonight to present our corporate plan, our budget and our medium-term financial strategy. I joined this council in 2012 when we first took administration, and all the hard work of the last 6 years have led to this budget tonight. I think it's a real success story for us as a council and as a Labour administration. It shows what we can do with good financial management and forward planning, and how we set it forward. What I'm going to do is just explain a little bit about in 2012 what we came into in the council. We came in as a new administration with a number of issues to solve. We had a number of discretionary services that are only funded for that year. The Playhouse and Pets Corner. There was no more money in the budget that was there. That's a fact. It was what in your budget you moved the year before. And we came in a place that was uncertain. Everyone knows that we've been hit by austerity since 2010, and this council was struggling. We're in a place where we were having to make decisions that were very difficult. We took a long-term view of some of the decisions we've made since then. And we had a look at the mess we were left behind by the previous administration, by when the Tories ran the council, and took to make some sound judgments. One of the biggest decisions we've made in the past few years is the decision to look at the contract for the environmental services and housing repairs. For many years, and it was extended just before we came in, to a company, and we looked at it and we said, what can we do? Is this the best way forward? And as a Labour administration, we looked at many options. We weren't ideological in it, we were open to any suggestion, but wanted a way that provided better services and brought more money into this council instead into many others' pockets. So we took the decision to create a local trading authority, HTS. We took that service back in-house, and today you see the difference that has made. Not only have we got the original contribution that we had in this budget, we've had additional money. Now what that means is the extra finances that we are bringing in means that we can deliver the money, instead of the money going into shareholders' pockets of Kier, we took the decision that that money is best placed in Harlow payers' pockets. So we decided that this year there was a council tax freeze. We will not raise Harlow Council's council tax. It's a decision that's been made, and that's been made due to a number of long-term stability here. And we're now in a place that we can present a rounded budget and benefits to people. So let's go over the budget and what we're presenting here today. First and foremost, I think it's pretty clear to everyone, there is no cuts or reductions to any services. On top of having no cuts or reductions, we've actually managed to find a £1 million pot which will put into investment to look after and tidy up the neighbourhoods and estates across our town. We've listened to people, and the way our town looks matters. And we're going to use that £1 million investment to really clean up our streets and clean up the area because of Harlow, the town that we love. It's really exciting that we can present a budget with the long-term funding for the Playhouse and for Pets Corner. As I said, when we came in, there was only 1 year funding on these services. And while it's a clear aim of this administration to look after the short and medium term, we always said we would find a long-term solution, and this year you have it. It is back in our general fund, it is funded for years to come and properly funded. We've made permanent the funding of the 3 community safety officers that work in the shopping districts across Harlow that we introduced last year. That is a permanent success of us. Last year was special for Harlow. It was our Harlow 70. And we saw fantastic events across the town. It was a real win. And I've got to say, the highlight of my year was the street carnival back in Harlow in July. And it was our pleasure to put that permanently in the budget. So every year we will have an annual street carnival in Harlow to celebrate all that is great and good in our town. Important to remember that the fees in our council car parks, yet again, frozen for a 5th year running. That with 1 hour free parking in our neighbourhood shopping centres and in the town park will remain. And not only that, we thought, who do we want to look at? This budget takes a lot of work. We spend a lot of time as administration working with officers and seeing the hard work our staff do to do a balanced budget. And that's the reason we'll have a 2% pay increase for our staff and no increase in council allowances. Lovely, round up. Just to say that all of this, freezing charges, was on top of a massive cut from the government. So here's what shows what a Labour council will deliver.
Is the second would like to speak now?
Later, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Gold.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll first turn to the shadow of the awful events in London last year, which still hang over social housing. We fully support the work of the Council in monitoring fire safety in high-rise blocks and to reassure as far as possible residents. Our Council has a fine experience of managing these buildings and adopting good practice, and we obviously support the moves in this year's budget. I'm now moving to move the amendment. Residents tell us that one of the most important priorities is housing. Over the past few years, this Council has talked around the issue of housing supply. The Conservative opposition is ready and willing to support investment in new council houses to inject much needed supply. The administration should embrace our amendments as there is a clear local demand for such dwellings. Our amendment puts into motion action rather than words on delivering council houses. This is a model for social housing delivery that the left have been demanding for years, and last week we were criticised for having no ideas. Madam Chairman, also at the Cabinet last week we had the resources portfolio holder waxing lyrically about the good old days of pre-competitive tendering. The period when the DLO took 56 days to turn around an empty property. That's 56 working days compared to 17 elapsed days now. Not only do we house people more quickly, there is over £350,000 more rent collected a year. Or the period when it took the DLO 14 months to carry out an annual gas safety check. This is now achieved in 11 months with a 100% access rate. I think I know who the tenants prefer to work on their houses. As Councillor Tolles referred, Labour's big idea 2 years ago was to create a local authority trading company. It turns out that most of the councils opposite thought it was just bringing housing and environment services back in-house, which it isn't. HCS is an entirely separate limited company, owned by the council. So yes, Madam Chairman, we did oppose the ITC at the time, because we weren't clear about the benefits either. As John Maynard Keynes said, when the facts change, I change my mind. As we lay out the amendments before you, there is a raft of benefits from this proposal. Alternative council houses. And because they will be owned by the housing company and paid for outside of the HRA and without subsidy, they're outside of the right to buy and rent regulations. And of course they will be managed by our housing department, receiving applicants from the Housing Needs Register. The local housing company would employ, where possible, local people. Materials will be sourced, where possible, from local companies, all going to support the Harlow economy and the Harlow pound. Excellent. Spending Harlow's money in Harlow. Thank you. The general fund would receive an ongoing revenue stream from the rents after maintenance and management costs. And the big bonus, of course, is that the construction contract would not need to go out to competitive tendering, but still subject to value for money assessments. No competitive tender. Well, think of the savings that would achieve. And no sleepless nights for portfolios. What is there not to like? The Pathfinder project, which built the last set of council houses, achieved 19 copies for a cost of around £3 million. Building cost inflation has outstripped CPI since then, and the number of properties will vary with the type and size, so we're leaving the actual number vague at this time. They should be built between Old Harlow, Chipping Field House, stick out to the Churchgate Street, section 106 9. The proposal tonight will provide the groundwork and experience for the new company to go on and build the accommodation we need so badly. Allied to the housing company, the HCS Group will also establish an employment company to recruit and retain staff for both itself and the council. Being so close to London, there is strong competition to recruit good people. We also take this opportunity to propose an HCS Facilities Management Company for the Civic Centre and Nutbush. This will involve the transfer of staff, but as we've seen already with Kier and HCS, they can be reassured about the process. They also provide the basis for running these services in other buildings, such as the new one the council is building in the enterprise zone. Madam Chairman, this amendment provides a golden opportunity for the council to literally build on its innovative approach to procurement. Voters would justifiably ask why a council, a Labour council, would ignore it. Is it perhaps, Madam Chairman, because they don't do the detail? I move on.
Thank you. Have I got a second?
Secondly, but reserve my right to speak, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In speaking to the amendment, and I'll speak to the motion later, but only speaking to the amendment at the moment, I think the first thing to recognise is that the official opposition tonight do not want to make a single penny change to our general fund, do not want to make a single word change to our general fund. So I congratulate them. They obviously recognise that the right group to run Harlow taxpayers' money and run the accounts for this town are actually the Labour group. I congratulate them for recognising that. Turning to the amendment, which centres around housing and one or two other issues, on first reading the amendment the other day, I wasn't sure whether to laugh or phone the police to report a hijacking. It's amazing their sudden conversion to council housing in this town. It's amazing that, and I will speak later when I speak to the General Fund about actually their government's view on council housing. It is not what is normally portrayed. If they would have cared to look at the corporate plan, which is in front of everyone tonight, in front of the town for voting on, you'll quite clearly see that there's some words in there what this group, this administration feels about council housing, which is more housing available in Harlow with a wider choice of housing types of all tenures, which are affordable, social rented and council housing. The financial constraints upon councils as a result of the changed government policy has continued to pose pressure over future council house building plans. Equally, there is a growing understanding of the need to provide more housing of all tenures. The council, this administration, has an ambition to build new homes and has the beginnings of a programme to do so. Initial work to provide HRA accommodation includes a conversion or modernisation of properties in Hare Street Springs and Collins Meadow, which are in Hare Street and Little Parliament Ward, to provide more temporary accommodation, to provide extra accommodation in Partridge Court, which is in Toddbrook Ward. In 1918-19 will be undertaking work at Summers Farm, which is in Kingsmore and Summers Ward, to provide 6 more units, which are all going to be for social renting, for council renting. Top priority for me and this administration is housing, and importantly, building council housing. As I have said many times, we are seeking all opportunities and options. This is with all partners as part of the development of the local plan and maximising every opportunity. I've already allocated money within the budget in the short term. The strategy is to develop a proposal that outlines funding of any future programme for the local plan. A timetable, no matter whether in or out of the council geography area. A timetable is being produced to maximise every opportunity. The establishment of HTS provides the opportunity to explore options for future commercial delivery vehicles, which include council and housing regeneration companies. The shareholders subcommittee is the right vehicle to explore HTS commercial opportunities. The budget process is the wrong vehicle for being used for the Conservative alternative budget. I'd also like to congratulate them, by the way, for their conversion to HTS. It was this administration that had the forthright, the inventors left, and the hard work to bring up this idea. They wanted to carry on with giving shareholders of some private company any profit going. We wanted to put that money, that dividend, that profit back into this town, back to the people of Harlow. Also, their amendment seems to satisfy, I didn't know whether it was the Conservative group or the Conservative group of Old Harlow. I have nothing against the people of Harlow, they deserve more council housing as well. We as an administration want to see council housing in all areas in Harlow, not just divide it up to one particular area. As you can see, Chair, I will not, and this group will not support. It's just simply trying to get good press, good publicity for our administration and our way forward. It's not town-wide, we are town-wide. Thank you very much.
Councillor Danvers, please.
Right, well, I haven't really got much to add to what Mark said on the amendment. I've obviously reserved my right to speak on the main motions, purely on housing. This road to Damascus of Saul to Paul is music to our ears on this side. Of course, we should actually have an organisation that actually maintains our accommodation directly. Let's remind ourselves, 10,000 houses in Harlow have been sold over the years because of the right to buy. People out there now rent those former council prices, and in fact they pay over twice as much as the average council rent. That's the score of continual Tory policy on rents. It's interesting. If there's this sudden conversion in regards to what new housing policy should be, I'm pleased to hear it, but perhaps you might tell Robert Halfon, and perhaps you might tell your friends at Westminster exactly why they should also change their policies and start talking about council rents, council housing, and building council housing. And it's interesting, as Mark said, there was complete opposition from the leader of of the group in regards to HTS. If this is a conversion in regards to contracts, I'm once again very, very pleased to hear it. We've seen Carillion, we've seen the other problems in the news only today in regards to Capita, and it's not a way forward. All the privatisation that's been going on is now all coming home to roost. Putting money in shareholders' pockets from public sector just to do public work is not the right way forward, and we need to actually address that. We will do exactly what Simon said, but we will do it town-wide, and we've already got the plans there to do it, and HTS is the very vehicle that we plan to do it with. And you know that, as one of the directors, as much as the other two directors know that as well.
No, we don't.
Councillor Durkin?
Thank you, Chair. As the Cabinet Member for Regeneration, I stand amazed that the Tories in front of us have had this amazing U-turn, that they've suddenly realised that council housing is important to a community. For decades they have destroyed the council house framework. The MP is still campaigning for the rights to buy. So I do think, even though I am amazed that they have now suddenly, at this moment in time, seen the light, I think the vast majority of people in this community would have no flack or credibility with the Tories for the destruction that they have caused to our community over generations. I also feel it is foolhardy to be actually allocating specifically in relation to, we'll build this and build it there. That is not about a town-wide concept. That is not about accessibility. That is not about sustainability. And that is not about community engagement and community facilities. This does need to be a town-wide approach. We will be building new houses. We will be building all types of new housing. And absolutely, they are sharing our aspiration that they will be council houses as well. But for them to try to get onto the back of what this Labour administration has done is foolhardy and has no credibility in the eyes of anybody, and that is the simple truth. And if you want to know one more truth, when we set up this organisation several years ago, who called it in? Who called it in to say it was not workable, it was not achievable? Chair, it was my colleagues opposite who did not have any confidence or faith or belief in that organisation. But we're here today with a real good opportunity, and that therefore I would say, Chair, that actually this amendment to this motion is pointless, it's pathetic, it is about trying to grab a headline when actually we're here for serious business, which is looking after the welfare, security and support of our local community. And I hope we will all close down this ridiculous amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Mallard?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, where's the roundabout scheme, guys? I love it. Every year you put in this £8,000 into the budget with this make-believe roundabout scheme, and you're going to fund some changes that way. This year, non-existent. You agree with us every single way on the general budget. Guys, were you just laid back for the last 2 weeks thinking, what are we going to do? They've got a perfect budget, we've got no changes. But I'll come on to Councillor Carter's point about doing the detail. If you want to use right to buy receipts to fund a new development, it has to contribute 30% and no more of the overall development. In the numbers that you give, it contributes 33%. It's flawed at the very beginning. You have a black hole before you even start. We've been working on this for years, and the people of Harlow will trust us to bring council houses to them, not you guys. Thank you very much. I've been not voted for this amendment.
Councillor Widdowson?
Well, I must say I'm really, really shocked when I saw this. Well, not shocked really, but thought maybe you'd change colours. And all these years we've been campaigning, especially me, I've been campaigning about council houses, and the group, we've decided we are going to build council houses. We've already started, we've done some, but it depends on where placed. Last cabinet, your side were actually arguing about the town planning. Oh no, we can't have houses here, we can't have houses there, we can't. So if you want to build council houses, you need to agree where it get built. We know what we're going to do. And Councillor Carter, I remember 2012, I was with Defend Council Housing when they were outside lobbying us for council houses. You actually asked me the question, why do we need more council houses? So now you've actually converted. Well done for converting, or should I say reverting. And so I'm not going to support this because we're already doing it, so there's no point. You couldn't find any problem in our budget, that's why you had to bring something that we already got. So you have to put in and have a big splash on your Harlow. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I rise to support my colleague, Councillor Simon Carter, who I think has put forward an innovative proposal tonight to actually address one of the fundamental issues that keeps coming up on the doorstep, and that is the right mix of housing in Harlow, and in particular, affordable housing. What is quite clear from our amendment tonight is that this is a town-wide local housing company proposal, not isolated to one area, but of course we give an example of how a local housing company can operate. And that's an example with the money in the debate that we had at planning recently about the contribution that came from the developer of the Churchgate Street development. My principal support for this comes down to one fundamental reason. It's our responsibility as councils to try and deliver a consensus on how to tackle housing issues in Harlow. We have our objections about the local plan, and we're not debating that tonight. What we're trying to set out is a clear vehicle run by local people in this town that offers the opportunity for action now to deliver council houses. We've had warm words from the administration for far too long on this. We need decisive action, and we need to use the LNTC as a vehicle to deliver that. Now, I'm a convert, and I have said this publicly, but I welcome now what HTS is doing. I think it's incumbent upon an individual when they feel that they want to change their mind, and they've actually worked on the shareholder subcommittee, HTS's shareholder subcommittee, and we recognise the value of that organisation and actually support something that can make a huge difference to this town. What this amendment does is it empowers the HTS group to deliver council houses. Now, Councillor Durkin said that this motion is pointless and pathetic.
Yeah.
How can it be pointless and pathetic to start the ball rolling to build council houses in this town? Council houses, affordable housing, the right mix of housing. The right mix of housing is something that all councillors care about. And we were trying to get consensus tonight. But who's really playing politics is the Labour administration, because they regret not seeing the value of HTS and what it can do to deliver housing in this community. Fundamentally, what we're trying to do tonight is set in motion real, clear action. Are the Labour Party afraid of? What are they afraid of in terms of building council houses? Why don't they join the party, get involved, and actually see the value of HTS in driving council house development forward?
Oh, God. Councillor, please.
First of all, I want to put this in a little bit of national context. There's 150,000 fewer houses for social rent since the Tories have come to power. It's 150,000. That's according to the Chartered Institute of Housing, just in case you want to know where my sources have come from. In the last year, there have been 10,000 fewer local authority houses for rent nationally. That's the context in which this debate is taking place. I welcome Joel Charles's conversion. In fact, so much so, I think that Gildon Way or Churchgate Street, one of the others, ought to be called Damascus Road. And perhaps at some point we'll put a little plaque up to actually sort of recognise and say, this is the point where the Tories actually recognise that there's a role for council housing and we're prepared to back it. So let's go on, hopefully we'll go on and do that at some point. In terms of just going back to what the Tory record, I find it interesting that Councillor Charles is now saying we should use its £1.3 million for council housing, when only within the last fortnight he was saying how disappointed it was at Planning Committee. How disappointed it was. Well, that's your quote, whether it's selective or not. How disappointed he was that we...
Point of clarification on the comments I said at the Planning Committee, Chair, if I may. Thank you, Madam Chairman. At the Planning Committee, after the Planning Committee, I issued a statement, as Tony Evans has declared, but he has misquoted me. I said, although I was disappointed that the 9 affordable units were not built at the Churchgate development site, I said explicitly that it was good news that the contribution of 1.35 million would be used for affordable housing in Old Harlow. So I'd be grateful if he withdraw his remarks and not selectively quote me.
And I'll just reply to that. At the time of the Planning Committee, you were pushing consistently for us not to be accepting the 1.3 million, but rather actually challenging the developer and, if necessary, pushing us forward to take it forward to the next stage. So no, I don't withdraw that. The next point I'd like to make is in terms of the
Councillor Charles did come back by way of personal explanation. I think, having said that, I think we need to move on and accept that that is what he said. So
thank you. I'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and accept that.
The other thing in terms of council housing, let's again put it in a context. We're attempting to develop housing, and at the same time the Tories have relaxed planning controls, so that we have the scandal in this town of what were industrial development units now being used for units of accommodation. That's the situation in which we find ourselves. We have a government which until relatively recently has not been allowing councils to borrow against their housing stock, to build more council housing. So yes, I fully welcome, in a sense, the conversion, and I'm really looking forward to the time of the conversion on their part. And I'm really looking forward to the time when they join with us to ensure that we do take forward and build additional council housing in this time, which is funded and the detail has gone into, and it's funded with a package that's put together in the right and proper way. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. While my colleague, Councillor Wilkinson, was speaking, Councillor Charles opposite said words and no action. I'd like to just expand a little bit on the action of the Tories in government and the effect it's had on council housing. And I'll go back a little bit further, perhaps, than Tony Edwards. Because in 1979, 42%, this is important, in 1979, 42% of all Britons lived in council homes. 42%. Margaret Thatcher and the Tories came to power, introduced right to buy, selling off council houses at discount prices, and then prevented councils from using the revenue produced by those sales to build new housing stock. Today, the results are that the proportions of Britons living in council housing is just under 8%, and Councillor Russell Perrin thinks that's funny. David Cameron's Conservative government has made matters worse. Right to Buy 2 is simply exacerbating the problem. The decimation of council stock can be laid squarely at the door of the Conservative Party. They justified these wanton acts by pretending they would bring about a property-owning democracy. And as a homeowner myself, I have no problem at all in facilitating home ownership. Yet, the Tories' own figures show that 40% of right-to-buy properties are now owned by landlords, let out to tenants at exorbitant rents, frequently on insecure tenancies, and often without proper maintenance. We welcome the U-turn from the Conservatives opposite with their Damascene conversion to the benefits of supporting councils, building council houses, and protecting those houses from right to buy. Unfortunately, their proposal, limited as it is to one area, Old Harlow, lacks ambition. And so while I'm still a firm supporter of council housing, and will look at the Conservative proposal for Chippingfield with interest, although there are clearly major problems with it, I'll be voting against this amendment. Conservative councillors will no doubt look forward to Labour developing something far more ambitious for all of Harlow in the coming year. Presumably, when we've done so, we can count on their newfound support for council housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We've heard a lot about conversions, U-turns, road to Damascus. We've neglected to point out that many of us in the room are on a similar journey after Councillor Danvers when we're proposing a 0% council tax rise, which has been poo-pooed for many, many years, consistently by those opposite, saying it's unsustainable, it's not possible, massive holes in medium-term financial planning. And yet, there we are, there's the conversion. Thank you for taking on board our ideas, thank you for taking on board our many, many suggestions, and we'll come on to many of the ideas that you've taken from us over the years, and last year's ideas which you've taken and built into your budget. So we thought we'd try something different. We thought we'd show you another idea that you could take, which is building some council housing. Now, we've heard a lot from Councillor Mark Wilkinson about his ambitions in the paper there, that we're seeking more opportunities. But you know what? Come round to my house at Christmas. It's wrapped in ambition. Come round and seek the opportunities, everybody. Oh, don't worry, it's a little bit damp because there isn't a roof, but we've got the ambition there. Don't worry everyone. Go to the spare bedroom. Oh no, it's all right. It's got opportunity. There'll be opportunities for an extra spare bedroom for you to stay in. Don't worry, Councillor Wilkinson has got in a nice little document tucked away on some shelf somewhere in his office that'll keep us warm this year. No. We need more than ambition. We need more than to seek opportunities. Yes, you have been able to build some council housing, and we've heard the Tories are the bad boys and we don't build council. Well, it's the restructuring of council financing that has allowed you to borrow, which has allowed you to build those council houses.
This administration.
Without a Conservative government, you wouldn't have had the framework or the structure to continue to build council housing. And what we're saying to you is here is an opportunity to build even more, town-wide, using the HTS funds. And not only that, it will generate an income which will go into the general fund. But you choose not to because you say, no, we're not going to do that because it's a Conservative amendment. We're not going to accept that. We'll accept your council tax proposals from the past 8 years. We'll accept many of your good ideas for the budget. I wonder what ideas you've got for next year because you're going to have to come up with them yourself. Which is
roundabout scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you bring our idea back.
So we hear more about the contradictions and the foibles of their budget and their thinking as we go through the night. But I support Councillor Carter in his amendment. I support him in his ambition, which is costed and set out, and it's a real plan and not just warm words on a page. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Livingston. In my 20 years, or my 20-year anniversary this year, in my 20 years on the council, I've experienced obviously a number of budgets. And it's usual, just like tonight, for a political bum fight across the chamber to take place. Two sides locked in ideological battle and disagreement, with vitriol being spat across the chamber. And that's certainly what I've seen tonight from the Labour Party, vitriol. So much of the kinder, gentler politics of Jeremy Corbyn. But tonight, I want to do something different, something simple. For the last 8 years, be it in administration or opposition, as Councillor Perrin has said, my colleagues and I have stood on budget night and moved council tax freeze after council tax freeze. For 8 years, the members opposite have told us it's not possible, despite us repeatedly proving that it is. For 8 years, the members opposite have been telling us it's unsustainable, despite all the evidence to the contrary that my budget teams have revealed. So tonight I have something simple to say to the members opposite. Thank you for finally listening to us. Thank you for signing up to the Harlow Conservative view that the council doesn't need to keep
inflating council tax year after year. It's great to have your support for our long-standing policy of council tax freezes. So in the words of Sam Seaborn in The West Wing, let's forget the fact that you're coming a little late to the party and celebrate the fact that you showed up at all. Year after year, my group have moved opposition budgets that have been laughed at, criticised and vilified, just like tonight. And yet, time and time again, we've seen those elements of those budgets crop up in future years. We've seen our items parroted back to us the following year. So tonight, whilst welcoming your adoption of our council tax freeze, we're going to limit the chance you have to recycle our budget. But we still want to make a very important point, that the council, whoever's in charge, needs to think big, to think outside the box to solve problems facing our community. That's something I'm always pleased to say my group has been able to do, and is highlighted by our amendment tonight. One of the biggest issues that face young people today is housing, and whilst personally I'm a huge supporter of the right to buy legislation, I recognise that buying does not suit nor is affordable for everyone, and the council housing is clearly a key part of this housing strategy. For far too long there's been a view that social housing is the expertise and the preserve of the left, and we've heard that time and again tonight, but that just isn't true. Our Prime Minister has rightly argued for the rebirth of council housing. Indeed, our local MP, Robert Halfon, just this week with his parliamentary colleagues, made housing one of the 3 key government objectives that the government need to focus on in his article for the Sun newspaper.
Why is he still
We've heard some facts, so I want to give you some facts. This is sourced from the Department for Communities and Local Government House Builder Find document. Under Labour, between 1997 and 2010, there were 2,780 council houses built in the country. From 2010 to 2017, there have been 10,310 council properties built in this country. Don't sit there and tell me that just because I'm a Tory, I don't like council housing. It's not true. Tonight, I'm pleased my group has had a chance to move an expansion to council house building in Harlow. We have the local authority trading company. The history is well documented, and I was not a fan. I'm still not a fan. But we have it, so we might as well use it to the best of its ability. And that ability is one to build more council houses, paid for outside of the HRA, without requiring any subsidy, houses that are outside of the right to buy legislation that you hate so much, and the rent regulations, but managed by Harlow's housing department, taking tenants from the Harlow Housing Needs Register. Built by a Harlow company, using Harlow material, using a Harlow workforce, investing the Harlow pound. What could be better than that? Well, I'll tell you what's better. The Council General Fund will also get an ongoing revenue stream from rents. I can't see the downside. So, Madam Chairman, what I've heard tonight from the party opposite is actually they do support what we're suggesting. They wish they'd have spotted the idea and moved it in their budget. And I can tell you, Councillor Living, I think what we'll see in the next year is the local authority trading company used to build houses. And at that point, I will thank you for not just adopting our council tax freeze, but for adopting our housing policy.
Okay. I've got to say, when I saw the proposals yesterday, I thought I'd misread. I thought I'd actually read some conversations and some email chains we've actually had with this council, we've had with our partners, about using a local authority trading company to do housing. From months and confidential conversations, I can't imagine how our partners could have got confidential information that may have been shared to them through a company that we work with. And I really hope that no breaches have been made in confidentiality, because that would be a very serious issue to look at. But I am happy to move forward and take the benefit of the doubt.
No, that's...
Why is the other director not... Sorry, you go through the chair, don't you? Isn't that the etiquette?
I think we need to move on from that. I don't think that is just...
It's a lie to accuse emails of
I'm assuming Councillor Tully weren't alleging...
I would answer, I don't know how opposition got hold of that this administration has, and I would take that, I would take the benefit of the doubt. Take the benefit of the doubt.
So I think it would be useful if Councillor Toll I moved on to, not withdrew, but the comments have made, and that's, leave it there. I mean, I think you need to be careful what you say here.
Brian, can we make it crystal clear that we would not, and we have never been privy to any commercially sensitive information about this. We are deciding on our own independently. And to make any inferences, I have to say to the leader, she is not she doesn't have parliamentary privilege or anything to safeguard on that. She must withdraw that comment because it's completely wrong.
Sorry, Chair, can I just ask who is actually chairing this meeting? I thought it was your good self who was chairing it. Why is the opposition allowed to take control over these meetings when our new leader is actually making a valid point? We will take direction from you and not from them.
Right, carry on. Right, look, I'm happy to discuss council housing building, and I think we need to look at the vehicles we've got to use that. It's something we've done a number of work, and which we do plan to bring forward in the year ahead. I'm happy to work with the opposition with this and move forward. What I would say is that several parts of the documents are flawed. The site that's identified is no longer available for development. As my colleagues pointed out, the figures don't quite work. The government guidance is quite clear. You cannot have more than 30% of the right to buy receipts into it, and it's 33% within the arrangements. So look, I'm happy for them to be part of the conversation and to move this forward, but we won't be accepting this tonight. We will be looking forward in the year ahead at how we build more council houses. We've built the first in a generation, and we're desperate to build more. Now, we know that the receipts from Old Harlow he didn't want to use, and we've made commitments to council to use them within the 2 years and look at Old Harlow. But it is across the town. This isn't just a budget for Old Harlow, and it's important to look at this delivery vehicle across the town. So I will extend an olive branch, and I will open up these conversations and say, let's work together to do this. But we're not going to agree this tonight in these proposals. Come and sit and work through and talk to us. Because it is an idea we've looked at, it is an idea we've done a hell of a lot of work on, and we're happy to move this forward.
Right. Could we now please vote on the amendment? All those in favour? All those against? And are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. The amendment's lost. Now can we please vote on the...
No.
We now go back to the main motion, and members can discuss that as they wish.
Right, Councillor Danvers.
Yes, thank you. It's already been obliquely referred to in regards to this budget. What the opposition need to establish is where £300,000 from HCS would come from to balance this budget, because they didn't agree with that. They still wanted the shareholders from Kier to be benefit. And more, what they've got to explain is where would the £600,000 that this authority would have been like if we'd actually had a council tax freeze year after year after year. I've actually said that at the Cabinet meeting, and Councillor Parring said we don't have to answer questions. So it's just a question, I sorry. We've been robbed in this town, basically, by actually going down the path of contractors. We need to actually start thinking about bringing these things back in and actually making sure that the town actually benefits from the profits that are made, and not shareholders. We're already seeing a public debate on this, and I think we've been in advance of this by actually having HTS. One last thing I'd say, the other thing that the Tories used to do when they were in power to balance the budget was freeze staff pay. They used to say, staff doing a tremendous job, sorry, freezing pay. 1 year, doing a tremendous job, by the way, we're cutting your pay. And that was how they were able to actually finance being able to reduce council tax. Not only have we consistently put up staff pay, chairperson since we've been in power, we've acknowledged, and it's not enough, but we've acknowledged the pressures that people are under, and we're actually putting it up by 2% this year. The council tax is one-off. It's a thank you to the people of Harlow who've actually paid in we've been able to actually rearrange the finances with HTS, and we need to actually share that with them. Hopefully, as HTS thrive, there will be more money. But we're not going to do it at the expense of our staff. We're not going to do it at the expense of services. We're not going to do it at the expense of compulsory redundancies. We're actually going to move forward and actually have a decent budget for the town to actually be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, as the Cabinet Member for Regeneration, I think the first thing we would all support are grateful thanks to all the officers and all the staff for all the efforts and help they have been able to provide all of us collectively to be able to put these issues in. I think it's also appropriate as a Cabinet Member for me to thank former leaders and current leaders for all their efforts and support that they have provided and the challenges that they have put to me as a Cabinet Member to look at what we're doing and why we're doing it. It was a very open and transparent process, and I'm grateful for that. The main message is zero tax increase. Essex County Council, controlled by the Conservatives, 5%. People cannot afford all this to be taken out, and that therefore it's right, it's prudent, and the time is right to enable us to put this 0% in. And that is a very strong message to the community of Harlow that we have their best interests at heart over these particular issues. As the lead said, for the 5 years, no increase in car parking, which is so essential for our local shops and our local communities to do business and growth. And if you actually look at our hatches and areas, most of them are busy, they're active, and there is a large increase in footfall. But we can't stop by just saying car parking. And again, this budget recognises that and allows us, for the first time in a number of years, to put real investment into the hatches to make them a real lively place for local people and to bring the community together. When you're out on the streets and when you're out canvassing and when you're out talking, but more importantly as councillors, when you are looking, you do see that there is a desperate need for us to start cleaning up our estates and our areas. I had the pleasure or the displeasure of going to Millwoods a couple of weeks ago, and it is a very sad, neglected area that needs support and help. And some of this can be easily done by putting teams of people in there to freshen up. It may well be that we might need to wash walls down or something, but it's simply not good enough that our local community are walking and living past these things every day and every night without us being able to do something constructive and helpful to those local communities. And because of the budget and the way that it's being formulated, this allows us, for the first time, to get really active, really involved, and to make those differences. It's absolutely wonderful that we've also been able to bring the Playhouse back into house. Because I was there a few weeks ago, and what the management team there and what the staff have done has really been a silent revolution over the activities there. And we should applaud them and we should thank them, and I believe under our leadership we are showing that commitment to them, that we actually believe in them, and that is why we're investing in the future. So this budget is about aspiration, but it's also about challenge. This budget shouldn't just be about building new, but it should be about renewal. And it should be about looking after our community to make sure that they feel safe, they feel secure, so that when we do start having to bring new housing on board, it feels like it works together, rather than we're just dropping in new houses, as our colleagues opposite had said in their amendments. So I welcome this budget. I think it's great news for Harlow. It shows that Harlow is working. As the Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Enterprise, it sends out a clear message that Harlow is open to business, but also this Labour administration is open to new investment, new opportunity to make Harlow the greatest place it possibly can. So I welcome and support this motion tonight. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take you back a little bit, not not till 1979, don't worry, but to last year, when Councillor Perrin was moving an amendment to our budget. And he said of us, they always complain about the cost of living, and yet every year they refuse to do anything about it. They have the power to do something, but they refuse. Well, Councillor Perrin, we have done something about it. We brought maintenance services and environmental services back in-house with HTS, so that Harlow money is spent with a Harlow-owned company and profits can be ploughed back into Harlow. The beginning of the end of the costly Conservative agenda of outsourcing services. The formation of HTS was an initiative introduced by Harlow Labour and opposed by the Harlow Tories. The dividend from HTS has had the direct result that the Harlow component of our residents' council tax can be frozen. I'm sure Councillor Perrin is biting back the chance to congratulate us. But that's not all he said in his speech when criticising last year's 1.99% rise in the Harlow component of the council tax. A rise that added about 10 pence a week to a Band D household. He said 1.99% is an odd figure. He said it represented the maximum allowed without a referendum, which he described as peculiar behaviour from a party that says it consults residents on the big issues. And he went on to say, well, let me tell you, taking money from hard-working people isn't a small issue. We'll remember Councillor Perrin's words and move on to this year's budget. We've frozen our council tax, yet residents will notice a big increase in their bills. Not by the £5 a year that was causing the Tories such consternation last year, but by a whopping £60 a year for a Band D tax, thanks to the Essex County Council component, a 4.99% rise. Councillor Perrin, what a peculiar figure. Could it be that 4.99% is the maximum rise allowed without a referendum? I'm sure you're itching to show some consistency and blast the Tories in Chelmsford for not consulting. And after all, if taking £5 from hard-working people isn't a small issue for the Tories, then taking £60 from these same hard-working people is an enormous issue. But that's not all. A Band D bill will go up a further £12 thanks to the Tory Police and Crime Commissioner. Necessary rises, say the Tories, in what is their second U-turn tonight, as they begin to learn the lesson that community services must be properly funded. And why are council tax bills going up? Because a Tory government has underinvested in social care, in infrastructure, in the police and in our fire service. And they've done this so they can cut taxes for the very rich and corporations and transfer the costs of providing services via a Tory council and a Tory Police and Crime Commissioner onto Harlow residents. This is a successful budget introduced by a prudent Labour council with a strategic plan which goes just a little way to address some of the cataclysmic failures of a Tory Police and Crime Commissioner, a Tory County Council and a Tory government. I shall be supporting the motion.
Well, I'm glad to see, Madam Chairman, I find you worthy of quote.
Yeah.
And, I must have done something worth saying to have my words thrown back at me. We've heard lots tonight, talk of flawed beginnings. Well, let's take a look at some of those, some of the things that Councillor Toll's spoken about tonight. I've never heard so many contradictions in one person's statement. She accused us of when we were in administration of only funding the playhouse for 1 year. We funded it from the general fund, and the general fund only lasts for 1 year. That's the budget. We created the Big Society Fund, where we put many millions of pounds to fund these things for years into the future. We were lambasted for doing so. And now we have a Labour administration that's bringing those things back into the general fund, and that's sustainable. It beggars belief, the contradiction abounds. Now, I don't mind the playhouse being funded from the general fund. I don't mind it being funded from the discretionary services fund, so long as it is funded. And we did fund it, and we did exactly what they are telling us is perfectly okay, so I'm glad to hear that. Another validation of what we did in office. That's great. We like to get history lessons from Councillor Ingle. It's very good. went back to 1979. I'll go back, but not quite as far, I'll go back to 2008, when we had to move a mini-budget in administration because there was a major gaping hole in the council finances, and it's in all the newspapers. You can actually read about it, Councillor Durkin, it's real. It's not made up. It was a £1.8 million financial black hole that we had to deal with. When you took over from us, there was no financial black hole. You talk of austerity, we had one of the biggest crashes in modern history to deal with, and we were still able to deliver frontline services, maintain services, improve services, and deliver that 0% council tax freeze that residents needed desperately at that time. We got no support from the opposition, as they were then and now the administration, on any of this. We've heard lots about the things that they do different to us. Well, many of the past budgets that we've put, they've taken many of our ideas. I'll give you a few. They boasted tonight about the free car parking, that they're going to continue to give the first free hour of car parking. They were going to abolish it. It was in their budget. It was in their budget, they voted on it. I launched a campaign along with my Conservative colleagues to reinstate the free hour of parking because we knew local residents and local businesses wanted it. A number of months in, we got the U-turn. We got the U-turn, they reinstated it, and now they parade that as if it's some kind of victory. They've taken back office efficiencies and savings that we've suggested in the past. Reprographics is one of them. Many surface areas, we put forward proposals, they've taken them. But let's talk about the investments that we've also proposed that they make. We've talked about celebration events that have not appeared in budgets and they've appeared midway through the year. We've talked about commemorating the war dead in the past with no reference in their budgets to it. It's appeared later on in the year. The Playhouse, we've heard much play about Playhouse. It was when they were in administration they actually shut it. Yeah. They talk about us running it down. It stayed open the whole time we was there. So do not lecture me on sustainability. Do not lecture me on improving finance. We showed you how to do it. I'm glad you listened. And now I'm glad to hear a 0% council tax rise. No, you won't get any argument from me on that one. It would just be nice to hear a little bit of consistency and to know that you are actually following a guiding principle and you're not stumbling across these things as they happen to happen. Madam Chairman, we've heard lots from the Labour administration tonight. We've heard lots of them running us down. And you're right. The job of an opposition is to ask the questions. It's your job to answer because you have the power to change things. You talk about what Exeter County Council do. I'm elected to represent the people of Harlow, as is everyone else here. Yeah? I'm elected to represent and put forward the case for the people of Harlow. And the people of Harlow...
You can do personal explanation. I don't know what's personal explanation. It's not being quoted, so it doesn't actually apply.
Yeah? Okay, sorry. He's getting used to his new job, that's what you're saying.
We could actually have some politeness in this meeting tonight. Because all I can hear is you have to go. We actually have some politeness.
Chairman, that was funny.
It doesn't matter whether it's funny or not. Enough's enough.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Thank you. So, in essence, Madam Chairman, we've heard lots of contradictions tonight. We've heard lots of yardwood politics, but we've heard no constructive support for anybody. We've heard them words. Madam Chairman, that's why I believe we're the credible opposition and the credible future administration of this council. Thank you very much.
Well done. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Okay, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. I was only going to rise to speak about the housing side and the capital funds that were in front of us tonight, not so much about the general fund and the budget that's in front of us tonight, because obviously everyone in this room agrees it's a fantastic budget. There shouldn't be any opposition to it or any amendments to it. But before I speak about housing, I just want to take one statement that Councillor Perrin made, and that is about the famous 2008 black hole. And he's correct, it was all over the papers. It was all over the papers because you all put it all over the papers. It's quite ironic that it was in the paper, but the Audit Commission in 2008 couldn't find this black hole. So it's quite amusing, that to me. Returning to the housing and capital housing documents we have in front of us tonight, I think it would be remiss of me not to go into one or two elements of it. I think mine was back to the really sad events in Kensington last June and the Greenfield fire. A very sad day for all of us. We've had to this year in our capital programme, working alongside Councillor Danvers and the finance team, the housing team, we've actually put £2.8 million aside because we want, once the not one but two inquiries come into place sometime this year, it's clear that we're going to have to, there's going to be some very clear directions of us to go. Now it is quite clear as well that the 14 town blocks within this town are inherently safe, and I welcome all the work that we've done on that in the last 12 months, which has actually been recognised on national TV. But what does sadden me on an event like this is that the Conservative government are going to put all these issues on us, are going to put all these things we've got to do. Sprinklers have been mentioned, I believe, but they're not going to give us any money towards it. What is clearly being said at the moment is that any implications of the Greenfield inquiries, local authorities will have to fund that. That is wrong. It is not right for governments to impose issues on local authorities and then expect the local authorities to find the money. So we've had to put £2.8 million aside to deal with any possibility of the Greenfield outcome. Homelessness Reduction Act, which will have to come out. None of us in this chamber, and I mean this honestly, none of us in this chamber would think that doing something to improve the situation nationally and in Ireland about homelessness is the wrong thing to do. It's obviously the right thing to do. We've been ranked, Harlow was ranked 36 by a recent shelter survey of having the worst homelessness issue around. And I welcome any government trying to do more, not only about the homelessness, but actually to prevent homelessness. But again, this is going to be the same issue of any Greenfield inquiry. The government in April this year are going to enforce the Homelessness Reduction Act on all local authorities, and guess who's got to foot the bill? We've got to foot the bill, which is inherently wrong and should never happen. I've also, as I said earlier in our debate about the Conservative amendment, which was only about housing, I have allocated money for building council housing, and this administration has a proud history of building council housing. My predecessor, Councillor Truan, under his guidance, we built the first council housing in this town for 30 years in Mark Hall Ward, something we're very, very proud of. If we look at the history, and we've all been given history lessons tonight, let's look at 2008 to 2012. Ill-fated Conservative administration. How many council houses did they build on new converts to council housing, by the way? None. How many plans did they put in action to build council housing? None. And Councillor Andrew Johnson, leading the opposition tonight, has finally admitted that it's taken 8 years for Robert Halfon to recognise we need council housing, which I find quite amusing in some ways. We are about action, not words, Councillor Charles. This tonight has proven that we have a capital programme that will move forward, be resilient for this town, be robust for this town, and will move forward to build council housing.
Councillor Andrew Johnson, please.
Thank you, Councillor Livingston. If I was a member of the general public in Harlow, and I happened to want to spend a wet February evening in the council chamber, and there might be some people out there who want to do that, and I walked in and I saw what's gone on tonight, I would be completely baffled and confused. You might find it funny, I don't find it funny, that you sit there and criticise and criticise and criticise when all we are trying to do as an administration, and all I've ever tried to do as an opposition, is to, well, both in, yeah, really amazing, both in administration and opposition, is to try and do the best for this town. I care deeply about Harlow, and so does every member of on this side of the chamber, and I'm sure every member on that side of the chamber does. We may have different points of view how to get there, but ultimately we all really do care about Harlow. And yes, there is a lot more that unites us than actually divides us, and I want to concentrate on some of those things in my summation tonight. I'm pleased that you're moving a 0% council tax rise. We can all argue about how we got there, but the thing is, we as Harlow Council are not going to put an extra pressure on our hard-working taxpayers in the town, and I'm pleased that's going to happen tonight. I'm really pleased about the investment that Councillor Wilkinson's talking about into our housing tower blocks following the disaster that was Grenfell. I was ashamed of my Conservative colleagues in Kensington and Chelsea, and I'm happy to continue to go on the record about their actions and their inactions. I was very proud when the One Show held Harlow Council up as a beacon of how tower blocks should be managed. And they correctly said that it was over different administrations of different years. And I'm pleased that all of us have worked to have some of the best council block management in the country. I'm pleased in the officer corps that we have, and I'd like to put my thanks on the table to the financial officers for helping us with our questions and our budget preparation this year. Thank you for their hard work and thank you for their support. And overall, I'm also pleased that we all agree, no matter how we fund it, whether it be from General Fund, whether it be from the Big Society Fund, or what you renamed it as the, whatever fund you renamed our Big Society Fund for, that we all agree things like the Playhouse and Pets Corner are worthy of this town and need to be continued supported, whoever is in administration. Councillor Livingston, I'm really sad that our amendment has fallen tonight. I was trying to do something practical and extend the hand across the political divide in showing how the local authority trading company could be used to build council houses, something that the administration say is their prime goal. I was trying to show them how it could be done, something that we thought they'd missed. Obviously, they don't want to vote for that just because some nasty Tories put it forward. I'm sure, as I've said before, we'll see that coming forward in the next year, and I will gladly welcome it when it does come, just like I'm gladly welcoming the 0% council tax tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Okay, can I hand it back to Emma, please?
Okay. Well, let no one say council meetings are boring. I think that's fair to say. Okay, look, we've had a lot of debate tonight about where we are in the budget, and I think we can accept it's a good budget, it's a strong budget, and provides financial security. What I don't want to take for granted the position this council has been in. So in the past 5 years of administration, we've had from the government cut £3.3 million from our general fund. That's equivalent to a 52% reduction in the funding from government. So that we've got less than half the funding that we had when we came in 2012. And that's important to remember when we look. There hasn't been services cut. We've managed to keep the discretionary services, and many services like the Playhouse and the Pets Corner, our community safety team, our youth council, many things that we don't have to do as a council, but that many people recognise the council for. That is all a really positive thing, and it's been done in difficult times. That's been done due to solid council, and I will thank both my predecessors in leadership that have stood behind before here and presented budgets before me for the past 5 years, from my cabinet colleagues and the previous cabinet colleagues, and from everyone on this side, and to the opposition, because we have gone backwards and forth, but we do come forward as a stronger council. We're in a place that this Labour council has delivered secure financial stability. That stability has enabled us to bring forward a company that is to providing services to people of Harlow and putting that money back into the taxpayers' pockets. It's not going to shareholders anymore, it's coming straight back into the council. Let's celebrate what is great about Harlow, and I hope to see you all at the carnival when it becomes our yearly function. I think this is what our administration sets forward. Our corporate plan lays out some ambitious plans. This is not the last of innovation and ambition you've heard from this administration. And I would thank the opposition. They're a great opposition, and I really hope they stay that way.
Okay, at this point in time, we need to have a named vote on the situation, so I'm going to hand over to Mr. Rees.
So when I call out your name, please say whether you're voting for, against or abstaining. David Carter.
Abstain.
Simon Carter.
Abstain.
Joel Charles.
Abstain.
Nick Churchill.
Abstain.
Jean Clark.
For.
Mike Danvers.
For.
Bob Davis.
For.
Tony Durkin.
For.
Tony Edwards.
For.
Wader Foreman.
For.
Tony Hall.
Abstain.
Maggie Holku.
For.
Mark Dingle.
For.
Andrew Johnson.
Abstain.
Eddie Johnson.
Abstain.
Shona Johnson.
Abstain.
Sue Livings.
Abstain.
Dan Long.
Abstain.
Stephen Mullard.
For.
Russell Perrin.
Abstain.
Danny Purton.
For.
Lainey Shears.
For.
Clive Souter.
Abstain.
John Strachan.
For.
Edna Stevens.
For.
Emma Toll.
For.
Bill Waite.
For.
Mark Wilkinson.
For.
Seven.
There's 16 votes in favour and 12 abstentions, and therefore the motion is carried.
Item 13, K and L. Can we take those on block? Yes. Who's moving it?
I'd move the chair.
Okay.
I second, Chair.
Okay. All agree?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Right, item 14. Can I hand over to Councillor Toad?
Thank you, Chair. This council last year took a decision that we were going to change our management structure. That we were going to take 2 posts and make it into one head pay service. We knew that this would be a challenge, and we knew that it opened opportunities for this council. We did go out and recruit, and unfortunately we weren't successful in recruiting for what we were looking for a head of paid service. And we thank the members who took part in that recruitment. Since then, we've appointed an interim managing director. In that period, Brian Keane has proved himself to show stable leadership to this council, to go and talk to our partners and lead on exciting projects, such as a new hospital, looking at expanding and what we do in our enterprise zone, the attraction of Public Health England to this town, and many exciting projects that we're working in partnership. But the head of paid service is important in the council. A council is unlike most organisations where there is a co-leadership model between the administration, the leader, and the officers and the senior management team. And who's at that helm is important. And what Brian has shown is a real passion for Harlow, a real leadership qualities in a way that is encouraging and will bring staff through, that offers stability to our staff and a safe environment for them to thrive and to encourage. And for those reasons, Chair, tonight, I'm really, really happy to nominate for Brian Keane to take over as our permanent head of paid staff, as our managing director. I think this is a really exciting move. I think it isn't good for any of us to be in an interim phase for very long, that we need a permanent fixture. I'm really excited about what this means to us for going forward. I'm really excited to see what Brian brings to this town. Brian's been in local government since 1977, and he joined us in 2013, and since then he's demonstrated to all of us what he can do. And since we lost our officers last year, he showed really what maybe some of us hadn't seen before in a real leadership quality. For that reason, this administration will be moving to appoint Brian King tonight as our managing director.
Come up with a positive way forward to recruit the managing director. His principal position and the administration's position at that time was that they would go out to recruit them. Now we're on record as saying, as an opposition, that we had reservations about the managing director role and the amalgamation of the chief executive post and the chief operating officer. We made those objections clear at a previous full council. But we moved on with the process and the recruitment of a new managing director at that time began, and Councillor Eddie Johnson actually sat on the first appointments panel to select the managing director. And what we saw there was a number of candidates. A preferred candidate was chosen, but they actually turned down the role in the end. And we were left in a difficult position, I know. But John Klettner came to the opposition groups and said, look, we need to find a way forward constructively, because it's within everyone's interest in this council that the senior staff work with all councillors, irrespective of political colour. And he agreed, and we agreed with him, that on that basis, Brian King would rightly be appointed interim managing director. And in the statement that went out by Harlow Council, they also said that they were commencing immediately the external recruitment process. Now let's be quite clear tonight. Brian is a consummate professional and he's a well-liked senior officer. This isn't a personal issue tonight. What we're discussing is a point of principle over process. Now, when it comes to recruiting any number of staff, I think anyone in this council or in the outside world would expect an individual to go through the full scrutiny of a recruitment process. They apply for a job with other candidates. They go through a screening process. They may be shortlisted. They may have to make a presentation. They may have to have a round of interviews. And that's what's at stake tonight. I think it's incumbent on this council to set a principle, whether you're the highest paid member of staff in this council or the lowest paid member of staff in this council. There is always a process, a formal process for recruitment. That's my concern tonight. I hope that we can have a constructive debate going forward. But at this moment in time, I cannot support the process that has been laid out tonight by the administration.
Thank you, Chair. As the Cabinet Member for Regeneration, can I welcome this initiative? And I welcome Gerald's point that we need to divorce the person away from the process and the procedure. So I get that. And therefore I put my hat on as a trade unionist. And the first thing you need to look at is, are we doing something that is illegal or not? Well, actually the answer is no. What we are doing is legal. We then have to make the judgment, are we doing something that's ethically correct or unethical? And actually, from advice that we have sought and the opinions of others, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the decision that we're taking tonight. We then go to the third point, which is it morally right? And actually, at the end of the day, we can't help but deny about the individual. And the individual is a skilled, a talented, well-liked and well-respected individual, doing the job that we pay him to do and doing it well. So why would you then, if there is no legal, moral or ethical argument to make you change your mind, why wouldn't you stay with the person who is taking this council forward with this administration? And let's be honest, this council has had a wobble over the last few weeks. And actually, that gentleman has been there throughout that whole process and has really shone bright in being able to support this council in being able to deal with those challenges and move us forward. So it would be, in my opinion, no value in wasting public time, wasting public money by going out onto a process that we've already been through the first time and regrettably failed, to discount a person that is doing the job and doing the job well. So from a pragmatic, personal point of view, I certainly support this initiative made by the leader of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to rise to speak on this issue, but I think it's really important that we give this a fair airing. I think I agree with Councillor Durkin and Councillor Charles, we take the personality out of this. So on that, I agree. Where I disagree with Councillor Durkin is that there is an ethical or moral question to answer here. What message do we send to people on the low run, the middle run in this organisation? You can get a job, the highest paid job in this council, and you don't have to go through a recruitment process for that. Now, if Brian is as talented and as committed as we have heard tonight, then he will have no problem in that recruitment process. But that is what he must go through, and that is what any candidate for the top job of this organisation must go through, because that person will be the highest paid person in this council, and they are responsible for a large number of people overseeing a large amount of public money. And therefore, it is ethically right and morally right that that person is open to scrutiny of a recruitment panel. We've heard tonight that the appointments panel is essentially defunct, because that is what that appointments panel is primarily there to address. There is political balance, diversity across that panel. It is incumbent upon us to make sure that any new leader of this council is open to the full scrutiny of a recruitment process. And I cannot reiterate that enough. We would not accept this in any other form of public life, and yet we do here tonight. And I really do urge the administration to think fast, hold fast on this, and really think again. There will be no face lost if they think and go back and say, right, this is the most highest paid person in the council, they should be subject to an interview.
Does anybody else wish to speak?
Councillor Charles has spoken about Brian as being the consummate professional. That's what I saw when I met him, and that's what I've known in almost 2 years that I've been here. It's important to remember that this process was approved by the LGA HR consultants. Councillor Perrin says, what message do we send to more junior people within this organisation by appointing Brian? Well, I think we send them a very clear message. The message we send to them is, put Harlow first, work hard for the benefit of Harlow, and you can go to the very top. And that's what Brian has achieved. Councillor Charles wants proper scrutiny. Councillor Charles, what greater scrutiny is there than for somebody to do the job and be successful at the job? And that's what Brian's done in the short time that he's been acting in this role, and that's why I will be supporting his appointment.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Councillor Livingston. This is a really difficult one, and it's not nice to be talking about an individual, but when there's only one person in the post, you have to. I've seen, this will be my 4th chief executive or managing director or whatever it is you want to call it in the council. I've seen good and I've seen bad. I've also seen a variety of different recruitment processes. And I think we need to look at what's gone on here with this recruitment process and analyse it. Now, as we know, we have a recruitment panel specifically for this reason, specifically to look at the chief executive or managing director appointment. It's politically balanced so that you get the different voices on there. Councillor Eddie Johnson is our representative, and the reason he's our representative is in his working life for over 30 years he had employee relations and HR relations experience. He sat on so many interview panels, mainly from an employee perspective, not from an employer perspective. He was the perfect candidate to sit and to evaluate from our team any chief officer coming in. Now, he reported back to us during the process that there'd been a very thorough and rigorous process. There'd been long listing, there'd been short listing, there'd been interviews, there'd been presentations, and at no point had the present person that we're debating put their hat in the ring or put themselves forward. In fact, they were in the room watching all the other candidates and helping to evaluate all of the other candidates. And the administration settled on a person that they wanted. Now, Eddie didn't actually agree with that choice. It was a 2-to-1 split on the panel. But because we respected the process, we agreed as a group that it had been fair, it had been accurate, and we would accept the choice that was being made by the administration. However, as we've heard tonight, that person decided to turn us down. Councillor Klempner then had a series of long conversations with myself, trying to persuade me what to do, and to his credit, came and spoke at a Conservative group meeting, walking into the lion's den, I think he referred to it as, and he actually laid out his reasons why he thought Brian should be appointed. And these same questions that have been raised tonight by Councillor Perrin and Councillor Charles were raised with him. I do not think it is fair, as my colleagues have said, that someone can just be given a job. I haven't thought it be fair in the health service in which I work, and I don't think it's fair now in local government. I think if a person wants to prove that they want a job, they should be able to compete with the best, so that we know that we are getting the best. And finally, Councillor Livings, I'd like to say I think it is very dangerous. We here tonight on this side will be voting against this because of the process that has been gone through. And I think it is very dangerous for anyone to take up a chief officer post when they do not have the support of a large segment of the council for which they will serve. And whilst it is within the administration's gift, because they have the votes tonight, as they clearly demonstrated, they may wish to vote for this person to take the post, I would encourage this person to think twice before accepting something that does not have the full support of this council.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'd actually like to thank both sides for the level and managing this debate in quite a professional and calm manner. I know it is difficult, and it is difficult to separate person from post, I understand that. What I would say is that since last year, when we haven't had a chief exec or a head of pay service in the council, I've listened to stakeholders, and we have listened to other people say that there are concerns about this. We have appointed Brian as interim and sent him out to me, and he's very good. He's got the high respect of many of our colleagues in Essex and throughout, and a lot of the partnerships we do. And I've listened to what they've said about, well, is he going to be here next time? Is it taking that serious step? We are serious about this town. I do believe we went through a process. And I think, and we took a lot of advice. Yeah, we did a local government association worked with us in terms of consultants to say, what was right and what wasn't. And one of the options we looked at next stage was of a headhunting process. It wouldn't have been the same. And then we looked about what we would do and what processes. There's different ways of recruiting a head of paid service. It is an unusual job. It's appointed by all of us as councillors, and they get debated here in public and now voted on in public. So it's an unusual level of scrutiny. And it's a special individual who can deal with that level of scrutiny in their day job with the charisma and charm that Brian does. I would say that I believe we've gone above board to make sure that this is the right process. We took a lot of advice from the Local Government Association, who, to be fair, when we met to talk before Christmas as an appointments panel, said directly to us that they weren't sure that any applicants would meet what we were looking for, as well as what we had in-house and what we were dealing with now. What we were looking for was someone special that could do the leadership, the passion and caring for Harlow, for the best of Harlow people. We believe Brian is that right choice. We believe we've gone through the process. We believe we've done the right thing. We've consulted HR consultants and the Local Government Association, who are completely satisfied with the process that we're doing and completely satisfied to vote for us tonight. And that is why this administration will be voting to appoint Brian King as our head of paid service.
Now, at this point we need to come to a vote.
Well, what are we doing the name votes?
There's no requirement for a name vote.
Okay. So, all those in favour, please.
Jane, I was going to vote for you.
Okay. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. We're now on to item 15. And then I'll also propose to take items 15A to D, which are tabled for noting. Yes, thank you. Right. Any matters of urgent business? No. No? Okay, thank you very much. The timeline is 1:09. And I'd like to invite you back to the council chamber if you'd like to come with me. Thank you.